Okay, we got you back here, Sharp Money. Amal Shah, I'm Patrick Meagher, joined now by a great guy, Steve Phillips, MLB Network Radio on SiriusXM for a long time. You can listen to the leadoff spot weekdays, 7 to 10 a.m. Eastern Time, and a must-listen every week when he's on with Mad Dog Chris Russo on Mad Dog Sports Radio during the baseball season. We say hi to Steve Phillips. Hi, Steve. How are you?
Hey, Patrick, good to talk to you again, buddy. And Amal, nice to meet you. Glad to be on with you guys.
Great to connect with you. And Steve and I have a connection. We both grew up in Michigan. We both grew up Tigers fans. And it's going to be a long season for our Detroit Tigers, Steve Phillips.
Yeah, well, you could say that again. It is going to be a long season there. But, they need some of the pitchers to get healthy. They need some of the young players to develop. But, they need Riley Green to get going. But they've got a long way to go. But it'll be a year to celebrate Miguel Cabrera in the final year of his career.
Steve, when you look at the defensive shifts that are being employed now, how is it going to impact scoring in baseball from your perspective?
Well, I think the banning the shift, you're going to see batting averages go up. Contact pitchers who were so good last year are not going to be nearly as good this year because the ball is going to find the hole to get through. And you're going to see a lot more guys giving up base hits this year. And so I think it's going to be a bigger factor. I think you're going to see more runs scored because of the bigger bases. And the number of times a pitcher can throw over to first base, the limitations on that. You're going to see stolen bases go up. And I was just on a conference call with Major League Baseball, and the batting averages on balls, pulled ground balls, have gone up 27 points in batting average, and up the middle it's gone up 21 points in batting average from spring training. And so we're seeing the results of batting averages go up with the balls finding some holes that didn't find it a year ago. Stolen bases are up 50% in spring training. I think it's going to go up even more than that during the regular season. You add that into the pitch timer and the pace of play. We've shaved 25 minutes off of spring training games, from 3 hours and 1 minute to 2 hours and 35 minutes. And so it's made a pretty significant change. And it's not the time of the game, it's the time between the action that really has been reduced. And so I think you're seeing a lot of great changes that offense is going to improve. The pace of the game is going to improve. There's going to be more exciting plays going overall. And so I think it's really going to head in the right direction.
Steve, you're more progressive than your buddy there, Chris Russo. So I'm sure you got into the WBC, right? The World Baseball Classic. And we saw Shohei v. Mike Trout. So let me ask you this way, Mr. Phillips. The Angels, we're waiting for this team with those two dynamic players to pop. Is it potentially this year for the Angels?
I love the WBC. I mean, it was fantastic. I mean, the fans loved it, the energy, the players loved it. I mean, for Major League players who have been in World Series, like Adam Wainwright, he's 41 years old. He's been in multiple World Series, to say it's the loudest stadium he's ever pitched in, the biggest energy. I think it speaks volumes. So I think the event was terrific, and I think it's great for growing the game internationally and domestically. I think from the Angels' perspective, they're going to be better offensively. They need Rendon to stay healthy, which is huge for them. Hunter Renfroe is a big bat in the lineup, too, to go with Trout and Ohtani. And so, they've got some offensive threats there. They need Jared Walsh to bounce back this year. The big issue comes down to pitching and whether they've got enough pitching. And, they really believe in their young left-handers. I mean, it's Shohei Ohtani and 5 left-handed starters in the rotation, and they're going to go with a 6-man rotation. And I like their starters. I don't know that I love them. Their bullpen is certainly better. But they're in a tough division. I mean, they're not as good as the Astros are. They're not as good as the Mariners are. And they may not be as good as the Texas Rangers are. The Rangers have spent, $500 million last year for 2022. Then they spent even more this offseason. They're going to be an improved team with a new manager, Bruce Bochy. And so I think that the Angels are going to be fighting for a wild card spot, probably the 3rd wild card spot. They've got a shot, but I do have them coming up a little bit short.
Steve, this is kind of a 2-part question. Which team do you think is going to surprise people the most in a positive direction, and which team will surprise people in a potential negative direction from your point of view?
Right. So I think the Milwaukee Brewers, people should look out for them. Everybody just assumes the Cardinals are going to win that division, and I love the Cardinals offensively, and obviously Jordan Walker, the young guy coming up, is going to have a major impact there. But their starting pitching, to me, is a bit of a mess right now. Wainwright's 41. He finished the year horribly last year, has a groin injury right now. Stephen Matz is hurt almost, every year he misses some time. Jack Flaherty's getting dinged around in spring training pretty significantly. And so I worry about their starting pitching overall. Milwaukee's got, the big three at the front of the rotation with Burns and Woodruff and Peralta. Eric Lauer's a solid number 4 starter. They're going to be better offensively, too. And I think they could really surprise. The team, for me, I am not picking the Dodgers to make the playoffs. Everybody says, well, they're always in, so they're going to be in again. I'm like, well, that's not really how it works. I did not love this offseason for them. They decided to go back and give their young kids an opportunity, and maybe the young kids will all come through, but I think the loss of Gavin Lux is fairly significant. It's going to pull Chris Taylor into the infield more to play a little bit too, and Trace Thompson better be good in the outfield for them, and James Outman, who showed flashes last year, but I'm not convinced that they've got enough offense. I'm not convinced about the starting pitching. I'm not convinced about the bullpen, and so I think they're going to be less. I have the Padres really winning that division, and I don't have the Dodgers getting in at all. I've got 3 teams in the National League East getting in. I've got the Brewers and Cardinals getting in the Central, and I've got the Padres making the playoffs, but nobody else in the West.
Steve Phillips, down on the Dodgers, 111 wins, kind of a transitional year as they try to balance the books this year. So the Padres, let's keep up there. Obviously, that's the class of the West. If you don't like the Dodgers, how good are the Padres this year?
The Padres are really good. I mean, I think they're going to be unbelievable. I expect Tatis Jr., after the 20 games remaining in the suspension, to just come in and knock the cover off the baseball and really be the superstar that he is. And, Xander Bogaerts is such an underrated star. I mean, people understand, okay, he got a lot of money. He's a star. He's such a great baseball player. I think he'll make an easy transition. He doesn't feel like a guy goes to a new team and runs into struggles at all. He just keeps showing up and playing. Machado's, an MVP candidate. Soto, I think, is going to be better this year. Juan Soto than he was last year when all the contract was lingering and everything else there. Musgrove would be back after the broken toe, but I like the depth of pitching, both in the rotation and the bullpen. And so I think the Padres are the real deal. I do. I think they're very, very good. I think they could win the West by, 10 games. I think they're that much better than everybody else. And so I do. I think that they're the team to beat, certainly in the West. And I've got the Braves winning the National League East and the Brewers winning the Central. And that, obviously the National League East is going to be a great race in the Mets, Phillies, and Braves. I think the Phillies losing Hoskins and Harper missing some period of time is going to really hurt them. But they overcame so much last year. So, the Edwin Diaz loss for the Mets is not insignificant, but I think David Robinson and Adebayo and Brooks Raley can all sort of pitch in. And, one thing you can do, you can always trade for relievers later if you need to. They're the easiest thing to get during the course of the season. But I think the National League is going to be a really fun race, and I've got the Atlanta Braves going to the World Series out of the National League.
Love the pick there. Steve, real quickly, I want to ask you, as a former GM, why do these teams continuously sign these guys to these 8, 9, 10-year deals when we've seen, out with the exception of Max Scherzer, I can't think of too many others that have worked out? Why not just pay a higher annual average value, get a player in the short run and see if they work, and then maybe sign them to another 4-year deal?
Yeah, because you know what they're doing? I mean, it's honestly, it's the price of doing business right now. And the players want to maximize what they can get. And so they're going to maximize the dollars. And so what they're doing is, the teams the players would like to have a 9 or 10-year deal. Teams are willing to give them the money, but they want to get 3 years tacked on the back end. So they'll say, okay, I'll give you $330, but I need to get 13 years out of it to spread the money around, to lower the AAV of the deal. And the players are thinking, all right, well, I mean, at the end of 13 years down the road, what am I going to be anyway? So they're willing to extend it. It's just the price of doing business right now. If you want the star, that's the game you play. Now, you can choose not to, which is what the Boston Red Sox have done. But you know what the Red Sox have right now? They got Rafael Devers with no Bogarts and no Mookie Betts because they weren't willing to play the game. And so maybe you can try to put a team together that way, but you're not going to get the stars. And in a large market, fans want star players. And if the teams, if the Yankees are playing the game that way and the Blue Jays are going to play the game that way, then the Red Sox need to too. And so you're right. Those long-term deals don't always work out, but it is the price of doing business today.
Steve Phillips. Steve, best time of the year, opening day coming up Thursday for all your baseball news. It's the leadoff spot, SiriusXM MLB Network Radio, weekdays 7 to 10 Eastern time. You can find Steve on Twitter at Steve Phillips GM. Thank you, Steve. Appreciate it. Nice to talk to you.
Yeah, you bet, guys. My pleasure. Anytime.
Go to VSiN.com/subscribe to become a VSiN Pro subscriber today.